this is Friday morning, October 2nd, at least for me here on the West Coast. And, it's been a big news day. It's actually been a big news week. We've had Trump's tax returns put out in the New York Times on Sunday. Then there was the debate. Trump made comments that were, a little bit louder than a dog whistle to the white nationalists and the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. And then, last night it was revealed, I believe actually by Trump's own hand or by his Twitter account, that President Trump and Melania, the First Lady, have both tested positive for COVID-19. And so maybe we could just get into this a little bit. Do you want to share any just immediate reaction or thoughts that you've had?
Well, I was already in shock, news cycle shock from the tax return story. And then of course I watched the debate, which was of course disgusting. And everybody I know left online was talking about how revolting and pathetic and idiotic it was, but it was more than that. It was something deeper than that. There was the call out to the Proud Boys, who are a neo-fascist group, stand back and what was it? Stand back and stand ready or whatever, stand on guard.
Stand by.
Right. This at the same time that it's clear the Trump administration is making a sympathy campaign for Kyle Rittenhouse, the teen fascist who gunned down two anti-racists in Kenosha, Wisconsin. But I thought even beyond the specifics of that, the whole demeanor, the whole approach that Trump took in that debate was a clear statement that he's not attempting to win the election in a normal kind of way at all. There's just no effort at all to reach out to independents or moderates or to women voters, right? None of that kind of stuff you would expect if in fact Trump was normally engaged in an election. And so I found it all very consistent with the notion that there's a kind of rolling coup underway that's about delegitimizing the election and, the continuation of this line that the only way I can lose is if it's rigged, which if you ask me is pretty much a call to civil war on behalf of his armed backers after he potentially loses the Electoral College count. So I thought it was even worse than some of what I've been hearing about it. There was just this relentless attempt to assault Biden as weak, and as weak on the quote unquote radical left. My God, I'm part of the radical left. I wish the radical left was anywhere near as powerful.
We've all been saying that.
Donald Trump seems to act like it is, but this is a core fascistic theme that you have these elitist liberals in power who aren't equipped to crack down properly on the supposed anti-capitalist Marxists and radicals. And I think he said radical left. I lost count. He used the phrase radical left at least 10 times that night. So that was terrible. Now there's the COVID revelation. And I noticed online, a lot of lefties were immediately sort of going into celebration mode and karma mode and all of that. And, this is what he gets. And God knows there's an ocean's worth of karma potentially falling on the first family, on the president, given all that. I mean, he denied the whole thing. We know from the Bob Woodward interviews that he knew how lethal it was, even while he was telling people it was a hoax and that it's just going to go away. And he was promoting quack fake solutions and on and on and on. But then as people are thinking about it more, I notice it's kind of like, wait a minute, does he really, are we sure that he actually has COVID-19? Or, what are the chances it's really going to take him out? Is it all going to become part of a narrative? He was attacked by the China virus and then he heroically overcame it. And, with some sort of miracle cure, maybe it'll be hydroxychloroquine or something else, a play to the religious base. Maybe this is part of a Superman narrative. He gets to not go have any debates anymore. He doesn't have to screw up with the horrible debates, and he gets to, get sympathy points and then have a miraculous recovery, and then just come out and have a V-shaped ass kicking of the Chinese communist-backed Black Lives Matter Antifa Biden movement and put on a Superman cape. So, the coup continues,
I got to admit, I don't see the conspiracy part of it. I think it's Occam's razor. The guy's ignored the virus. He's exposed himself. He doesn't wear a mask. And I mean,
That's the best case scenario. Yes.
I think lefties sometimes get really kind of entwined in these conspiracies, and I don't see how this could help him. I mean, he's ignored it, he's dismissed it, and now COVID is a national story, and I think his goal was to like make it not a story, to pretend it's not there anymore.
Oh, and we have evidence that he exposed people in Bedminster after he.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, they're in panic.
And I mean,
those rich fat cat donors.
This is the whole team. We have pictures of Hope Hicks breathing all over. The despicable sociopath Jared Kushner, who we know from Vanity Fair, killed a viable testing program. Last spring because they determined that
blue state.
Because they determined that it would hit the blue states, and and I don't put Trump. I don't put it past him that when it came out that this was disproportionately hurting people of color, that he didn't like that. I think he's a genocidal racist.
He is.
He's a social Darwinist, and so old people and infirm people, people with comorbidities getting wiped out. In Donald Trump's worldview, that's just okay. That's okay by him. So, you're right. He's probably got it. It's probably the real thing, but they're going to try and shape it too.
Yeah, I just at this point, what's striking is that there are 40% of Americans who are going to be with him. If he shoots somebody on Fifth Avenue. But I watched about the last 15 minutes of the debate, and the part that stuck out to me, and I'm not trying to give any praise at all to Joe Biden. I've been aware of his career forever, and I spent about a decade referring to him as the unctuous Joe Biden. So, but I was shocked because at one point when they were talking about Antifa and Trump was trying to bait him, Biden said Antifa is an idea, not an organization, which really kind of struck me that that's part of the narrative now, which is actually pretty good. It's a good thing. That was good of him. I was shocked.
And then use Christopher Wray, the FBI director, as the reference.
And,
I like both those things. I liked both of those, and I also liked when he did Keep Yapping. I thought that was pretty good.
Well, and at the end, I think he took a good approach too, because everybody right now is hysterical about Trump leaving and Trump conceding and all this kind of stuff. And Biden said he's going to lose and he's going to leave. And I think that's the kind of a good way to go, to be very direct and defiant about it. Like, you're gone, nobody wants you. So, I think I'm a little more hopeful than you. Not a lot, but I think I'm more hopeful than you that he's actually going to be gone on January 20th. Now his people, his crazies out there, the Proud Boys and stuff. Yeah, I think they can wreak havoc, but I don't think he'll be president.
I think it's locked in that it's going to be a mess. I think that's fairly clear. Of all the people that the experts, so-called, the Transition Integrity Project that have run all these scenarios, the only one that doesn't lead to a kind of constitutional crisis, potentially with bloodshed, is a sweeping Biden victory in the Electoral College and the popular vote. And that strikes me as very difficult to attain for a number of reasons. So I think it's going to be messy. But I think there's going to have to be some action in the streets beyond voting. There's going to
there's no doubt. There's no
real protests to send a message to those parts of the power elite, and they do exist. And I think they even exist within the military command that do want him out, that do loathe him, that will send the message. Listen, you son of a bitch, you got to go. This is enough. I mean,
actually, the military
their own reasons to hate Trump, which aren't our reasons. He discredits the American empire.
Yeah. Now, the military elites, actually, I study them, so we can talk about that some other time, because I could go on for hours about that. But they hate Trump. They hate Trump.
They don't like him. He talks tough. He talks military, and he did bone spurs, and he puts tangerine tint on his face. And a lot of the guys, the commanders, people come out of West Point, they'll completely bomb the shit out of him and screw up another country. But when it comes to the homeland, a lot of them actually sort of are constitutionalists.
Yeah, no, I found that, and they're actually in many cases. Well, I don't want to go off on a diversion here, but
right, so we'll see.
Yeah. No, I mean, clearly, this is something unlike anything we've ever seen before. You mentioned going out into the streets, and that actually brings up something else, which is we were talking before we went on about kind of certain segments of the left, like certain publications out of Brooklyn and Bernie Sanders and others, and there seems to be like either a hesitation or a reluctance to start planning for street actions. And I mean, they may occur like organically, like they did in late May after George Floyd. But I mean, why is it that we don't see like unions and groups of them? I mean, they should be planning on this. I mean, there are some people who are, I know, working on like kind of protesting if Trump tries to mess this up, but it doesn't seem like it's wide scale, is it?
No, it isn't. Now, we had a little bit of Indian summer here in Chicago and elsewhere of that George Floyd stuff after the Breonna Taylor, after the ridiculous grand jury decision there. And it was interesting to be on the offensive again. I got out in the middle of that, and it felt a little bit like, I'm kind of amazed in Chicago, and I hear this from other cities, at the vacuum of left forces. We do have a
Yeah.
DSA chapter here in Chicago. I think a lot of the people that used to be in ISO went into it, and it's just practically invisible. It's very hooked into. They've got some aldermen, they've got 4 or 5 aldermen, and
Yeah.
I want progressives making zoning decisions, and sewer socialism, with
Yeah.
Victor Priest. That's fine, that's okay. But we get a Trump second term, and there ain't going to be much in the way of a Black Lives Matter movement. There's not going to be much of an immigrant rights movement. There's not going to be, it's going to be a disaster. And I'm concerned about this attitude of waiting until, if he steals it, when I am seeing him telegraphing.
Yeah.
And this was, I thought in the debate, he says it's not going to end well. The quote unquote debate, he made it clear that he's counting on the 6-3 Supreme Court that we're looking forward to. I mean, I hear these Democrats say, don't do that. Please don't do that. It's like, what have you been paying attention to these people? Of course they're going to put this Handmaid's Tale, Amy Coney Barrett lady in there for a number of reasons. But one of them that makes it so urgent that she can get confirmed quickly is hoping it's a Trump card. If this thing works its way with the William Barr legal challenges that can be expected after the discrediting of the mail-in ballots, and maybe competing slates of electors. There's really evil things afoot that the Republicans are talking about with preempting the popular vote of the all college slates in 6 different battleground states. So we have a big court contest, and if no one can get to 270 votes because of completing slates, then it goes to the House, and people think that means the Democrats win, and actually it doesn't. People have to look up the 12th Amendment, and they'll see why it doesn't. So then it ends up potentially in the Supreme Court, and he's banking on that. So I really think street action and getting good at it, and getting and getting past this dichotomy. This Barack Obama, the best way to protest is to vote. No, Barack, the best way to protest is to protest. And in this particular election cycle, you might actually have to protest in order to guarantee any kind of decent, normal, bourgeois constitutional vote this time. I wouldn't say don't wait until November 3rd and the day after. It'd be better to get moving now and get good at it, because they're telegraphing it. I suspect you're right that at the end of the day, that people in the streets plus the sentiments of a lot of people in the wealth and the power elite will swing the day. But I don't want to call the game before we actually get in the field and play it. Right?
Yeah, the other kind of thing I find interesting is, like, Trump is, he is messaging his base, which gets into the street, which is, not nearly as, in my opinion, not as large as like what we've seen this summer from the left. But like the Democrats are actually also like, we're gonna go after Antifa too. Like Antifa in some ways has become a sort of like code word for people in the streets, whether it's like a peaceful march or whether it's people confronting fascists or confronting the police. But like where Trump is like encouraging a base of foot soldiers for himself, is like the Democrats are doing the opposite of that. And I actually feel like that talks a lot about the bankruptcy, not so much of the left, but of the sort of these liberal institutions and this liberal, neoliberal sort of like ideology that we've been combating for decades.
Well, we've lost something that used to exist in American history, which was some synergy between the left and liberals. There used to be a kind of an understanding that some of the liberal elites had, that they could use some thunder on the left. FDR could use some thunder on the left. LBJ could use some thunder on the left in order to go back into the political system in Washington and win some reforms. And the left could also understand that by winning certain things like the Wagner Act or the Social Security Act and the legalization of the CIO and the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, they go back to their membership, their rank and file people, and say, hey, we got something for you. There's something practical, and go back and organize on the basis of that. And I just don't see any willingness to defend the leftists anymore in the liberal community. It's certainly my experience in academic departments, in unions and nonprofits. We're just invisible and, persona non grata, and it's really depressing, and I haven't heard, has anyone in the mainstream political culture had one decent word to say in defense of actual radical leftists. I mean, we exist. We're out here. There's a bunch of us. We do things. We organize unions. We organize marches. We put our bodies on the line.
Yeah.
And they can't say a thing.
No, I agree. I think one thing that I have noticed though is the ruling class really does despise Trump. I don't believe in deep state and all that stuff, but they don't like him.
Well, most of it. There are parts that don't.
But what's has shocked me in the last few months is seeing these like establishment columnists for like the New York Times or the Washington Post write, I wouldn't say favorably about Antifa, but like in a less critical way because they hate Trump. So I think Trump in some ways has kind of given openings to spaces to people on the left. These ruling class fissures, because you're right, they're not homogenous.
Yeah, I see. I hear things from Chris Hayes and Michelle Goldberg in the New York Times, and you probably saw that column by Dana Milbank in the Washington Post, where he says the Reichstag is burning.
Yeah.
Way. And I think they're really horrified. It's funny, there is this kind of relative autonomy of the state to some degree. So you're right. Most of the ruling class hates Trump. So I think they did end up having a kind of marriage of convenience with him for a while because of deregulation.
Oh, yeah.
And tax cuts.
But at the end of the day, this is not their idea of a viable American empire.
Yeah.
With an open tangerine antichrist fascist at the head, tangerine tinted fascist at the head of it, and waking up to the fact that that they've got a problem here. And one of the problems they have is our constitutional order, which ridiculously overrepresents the most reactionary parts of the country. And they see the need to counter him. And I think they're pointing out that this claim of left-wing terrorism is, Christopher Wray is right. And there's a research about this, who are the real terrorists in this country. And 95% of the examples of violent political terrorism are from the white supremacists on the right. So it's good they're saying that.
And I don't think, the official green and red position is very much what you said, like people should be in the streets like yesterday. I know one thing Scott and I have talked about, like
kids in cages, that should have done it.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about Georgia because Stacey Kemp has gotten so much publicity and, she's done great stuff in registering people to vote. But then the courts, Stacey Abrams, I'm sorry, what did I say? Kemp is the guy she ran against. That's why. But anyway, in Georgia, they've done a great job in registering voters, but then, the Secretary of State or the Board of Elections just scraps them all. And then they go to court and, my point is why aren't they in the streets? Why aren't they blockading the State House and the registrar's office and Delta and Coke and, places like that? What is this antipathy among establishment left, liberals, whatever you want to call them, to actually do something rather than
I think that upsets the corporate sponsors, don't you think? I think one of the dirty little secrets of the Democratic Party establishment is that they would rather lose. They would rather lose to the right-wing party, even if that party crosses over into full-on white nationalism, than lose to the moderately progressive left of their own.
Oh yeah, Sanders was there. They've already succeeded. They got rid of Sanders. So.
But corporate sponsors aren't excited about people in the streets either, because that all bleeds into everything. Then before you know it, we want $30 an hour and and socialism and workers' control and all of that. And it is just astonishing the reluctance to do that. Now there is this wake-up call. You do have this coalition, I forget its name, of all these organizations, these move-on-y types of groups who are talking about the need to be in the streets, but only after,
fight back. They're calling it the fight back.
To steal it. Yeah. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
If he steals it. And he's telegraphing that he's going.
In
Florida, there was a recent federal court decision that said that 750,000 felons actually can't vote. That's really what it comes down to, because they fought to get them the right to vote, but they can't vote unless they pay all their court fees.
Right. Well, in Texas yesterday, the governor of Texas yesterday closed all of the drop boxes for balloting, one per county. Now, Harris County, where I live half the year, is 1,750 square miles and has like 6 million people.
Right.
There's one voting box for the entire county. Now, in the rural counties or like where you're from, Scott, these are like heavily Republican counties, but they're pretty small. So it's easy to get the one box. But in Harris County, forget it.
Yeah, and then there's the bizarre voter ID laws that are meant to disenfranchise the students at the University of Wisconsin at Madison and University of Iowa in Iowa City. And this is the stuff that Greg Palast has made a sort of semi-career out of talking about the last few years, right? I think he's probably already out with an article called "The Theft of the 2020."
Yeah.
But I've never heard, what's new to me is this notion of armed poll watchers and recruiting people to go intimidate people. I would assume in minority voting districts in battleground states. I mean, do we have to send out armed and trained members of the Deacons of Defense and the Redneck Revolt and the Neo Black Panther Party to take these Trump and Volk Amerikaner fascists on voting day? It's just wild.
Well, the new militia, or the new group in Georgia is it's like a black militia called the Not Fucking Around Coalition.
Is that right?
Yeah,
They were in Louisville. They actually had a standoff with the Proud Boys or Patriot Prayer or something like that.
Oh, is that right? Well, listen, I mean, Cornel West said that in Charlottesville, if Redneck
saved him,
Revolt hadn't been there, that he would have been wiped out.
Yeah.
Not just the woman who was run over by a car, but Cornel, Brother West, and all of that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't think Cornel West is he's certainly not predisposed towards violence, and so I suspect that's like an honest statement.
and he actually was there with a group of clergy as well that were being like set upon by the white nationalists and the Antifa.
By lunatics who are walking around saying blood and soil, Jews will never face us, and have AR-15s and stuff like that. This is real stuff.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I mean, you're right. It's not as big as the progressive turnout for George Floyd. The problem is, I don't know, AR-15s and everything sort of changed things. And I notice people are afraid to go out in the streets right now, and fear of violence is.
Oh, I know people who are afraid to put a Biden sign in their yard. So,
if you get in some of the rural Iowa, I've just heard from
Yeah.
a guy in Wisconsin he's an organic farmer, and he's got guys in pickup trucks swinging by his place every other day, honking their horn and cussing him out and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that.
Back in August.
A lot of my big city friends in New York and Chicago, they don't. I've lived in Iowa City for years. They don't understand. In much of America, these guys they're just 2 miles outside of town. If that.
yeah, I'm in Ohio right now, northeastern Ohio.
You see them all the time.
So, I mean, this used to be like solid blues. You could get Union, steel mills and all that. And now Trumbull County, I think, voted for Trump. And I'm seeing the pickups and the big flying banners and, vote for Trump, make the liberals cry, that kind of shit. So
the alt-right flags and
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Don't tread on me. And
in August, we actually, which was like there've been a couple of peak moments, but it was a peak moment in what was going on in Portland. We actually talked to a couple of street organizers from Portland who were actually emphasizing about how people there, the people on the left, not necessarily Antifa, but anyone who goes to protest are buying military grade helmets, they're buying flak jackets, and then they're also buying military grade gas masks because of the conflict.
Well, this goes way back in the Northwest. The Northwest has got that's a whole other thing. There's punk culture and animal rights and serious deep green eco rebels and so forth, and at the same time a neo-fascist skinhead right. And we don't have that in Chicago. Of course, our main thing we deal in Chicago is actually the white cops. I engage the white cops at the Black Lives Matter rallies and just sort of kind of sound them out a little bit. All their talking points are right out of right-wing media. They watch Fox News. Yeah. That's who the big city rednecks are. It's the white police. And they will crush protests with great glee. Now, the black and minority Latino cops might be a little different. That might be interesting to see.